Hey there, rulers, the Mo73 here, bringing you a super awesome match between myself on 101 card Typhon versus Paul Clute and Leowolf Nyarly. Let's go ahead and jump right in.
This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for product, and FoulLibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists,
as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen, King Pearl Shine, and Mognite.
Class is in session.
So as we get started here, just a reminder once again that Odyssey Games does have pre-orders up for War of the Sun. You can check those out in the description down below. Be sure to get those boxes because don't forget, there are those extra contract packs in every box, so you're certainly not going to want to miss those. This matchup is going to be absolutely awesome. It's really cool to go back and visit these order rulers. On the left, Paul Clute playing Leowolf Nyarly. Leowolf being an excellent card to add to Nyarly's package because of all the ways that you destroy. Leowolf doesn't get destroyed that first time, so you can get a lot of value off of it. And discard Typhon has seen a lot of life breathed back into it from the fact that Typhon's blood is no longer challenged by other decks being able to get access to Drywing very easily, and so Typhon has a lot more like will to be able to kind of keep up with the game. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. So right off the bat, we're going to see the first of mini casts of Typhon's blood here, and use that extra will just to start ripping into that hand with a Dark Mage of m.ha. It has to target itself, so it'll kill itself, but it will force Paul to discard 2 cards, which is great. And then we'll also get Arena Expansion Mount Osiris. And the reason why Mount Osiris is good is because now our Typhon's Bloods have Quick Cast, which is, again, how the deck really starts to churn through itself and get a lot of value off of it. Going into Paul's turn, we draw for turn, and then we see a quick out of order with Leowolf, so already getting started there really nicely. So right now, Leowolf will be a 6/6 with Swiftness. Gets to call Stone. And so the first time every turn that Leowolf is going to get killed, it'll get additional counters, and if it can ever get up to 5, it'll just never die, which is very, very cool. We do see that Paul is running Red Wine and Bread over Phantasmal Ascendant, which makes a lot of sense. In response to the cast, we're going to go ahead and do that quick cast Typhon's Blood, just to see if we can get some value off of it. Unfortunately, drawing into, I think, another Typhon's Blood there, so nothing really to support us. Red Wine and Bread's going to come in and give Leowolf another boost there because of the additional stone. We're going to use the Floating Black to go ahead and flash in a Darkness Witch of the Fallen Kingdom and just throw it under the bus to block. The idea being, like, we're probably not going to have to worry about him searching, so we're just going to, take it. And here we see that first kill your J-Ruler kind of advantage, right? So Rebirth of Flaming Disaster. He's going to go ahead and try to destroy Leowolf. It won't get destroyed, and then he just generates these 3 tokens that all have 600 attack because of the Red Wine and Bread. And then going even farther to sacrifice one of them for a Cthulhu just right out the gate as well. So just slamming pretty much his whole hand to just burn a bunch of damage. If I had not been playing as Typhon, I would have been in a much more dangerous position. But thankfully we do have Typhon's advanced life total to at least keep us around for a little bit longer. This is still very on board represented with a single stone call that is currently over 2,500 damage represented on board, and so we're really just trying to burn through those Typhon's Bloods to get to the point where we have access to draw 2 cards and get 2 extra will. Do end up having to call a stone because nothing to really afford to justify performing judgment with. There is a world where we cast that Laplacia that's in hand, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Ultimately, though, we say, you know what, let's go ahead and just cast this Magic Stone Research Institute, sack a stone, get another stone, essentially pay 1 for Magic Stone Research Institute because of the blood, and set ourselves up for a better turn later. And then just pass. We do have some survivability elements because of the fact that Paul is going to be top decking, so that's really nice. Like, it is threatening a bunch of damage, but we do have some turns to kind of survive here, provided the draw from Paul isn't that insane. It looks like another Cthulhu. So swinging in here for 7, and then 6, and then 6, and then 10. And then 10 with Leowolf. So all to go total, taking us down to 49. He does have another Cthulhu to sacrifice another token to swing in for another 7, takes us down to 42. So just 2 turns. We started with 10,100 life. Now we're already down to 4,200, almost to that starting life total there. We didn't just cast the blood during his turn, which I think is a little bit of a mistake. We moved to the main phase. We're going to go ahead and order out Laplacia, the Demon of Fate. This is a card from way back in Castle of Heaven and the Two Towers that says, I get to always see what Paul's top card of his deck is, and I can tap Laplacia to make us both mill the top of our decks. And while I have Laplacia, I can look at the top card of my deck at any time. Seeing that the top card of his deck is a Magic Stone Dance of Chaos, we're going to go ahead and call Stone and probably just pass. Really want to kind of control what he's going to be drawing into. Just kind of tracking some stuff here. Still get the reveal. Choosing to grab Typhon's cells here to start being able to refill my hand. But think maybe it might have been better to try to go for the Children of Gaia, just to put out another body to serve to kind of keep myself alive. But drawing more cards in my hand is probably good, especially since you see I have that Curse of Ragnarok, which is very, very nice. So we're going to go ahead and pass the turn there. And then we're going to let him draw. Thankfully, that card doesn't have Quick Cast. So we are going to be able to rip it out of his hands thanks to a Quick Cast Curse of Ragnarok with Mount Osiris. Seems like maybe trying to decide if I want to try to make any other play here, or if I want him to mill. Currently, Laplacia being an 11/11. Double checking exactly how the destruction part of Magic Stone Dance of Chaos will work. Drawing for turn, seeing what that top card is. It's a Malua, so that's a quick cast card. And we're going to go ahead and do Typhon's Blood here after draw before recovery because it's quick cast. And then again, that Curse of Ragnarok to go ahead and rip that, keep him at 0 cards. We say, look, you're going to be hitting me for a lot of damage. I'm going to be able to block one of them. I'm not going to worry about the Leowolf. We're going to keep ourselves alive for right now, and I'm not going to worry about you having a hand. A little bit of a misplay there from Paul because of the fact that Leowolf can burn face for tokens, so just like a missed opportunity to use that will that he had left up. But overall, he's still very much in a position of applying a good pressure here. Swinging in for 10 once again with Leowolf. Choose to take that, go down to 32. Laplacia can also be really good in terms of like if I already have a Typhon's Blood in hand and there's a Typhon's Blood on top of the deck to mill that Typhon's Blood out of the way. Also helps to accelerate getting to having the Typhon's Bloods available. We are going to go ahead and block the Cthulhu with the bigger Laplacia because Laplacia is an 11/11. Now, Paul could choose to ping the Laplacia as well for 400 and kind of get it killed. Ultimately, though, it's probably not the best idea because the more chances he gives me to be able to reveal stuff off of an order could be detrimental to him. This is the big case, and sometimes in these matchups, like based on what your opponent orders, you just want them to keep that thing ordered forever so they don't get the added value from the enter effect of their order. So cool to see that kind of play out here in determining how much board control Paul wants to do as opposed to just going face. Paul does have Rogue Spectator available. It's not shown on screen, which means that Typhon's Heart's just not going to be very active for this matchup. We do see the new a third stone with the Cat's Magic Stone, Typhon's Blood to produce, and then we're going to go ahead and slam in Alvarez, the True Demonic Castle. This is very helpful for me in the fact that it's making all of his dudes -2/-2. which will help mitigate some of that red wine and bread pump, as well as putting 2 other bodies on board, and those 2 other bodies are now bigger. So those are 2/2 plus 6/6, 8/8 tokens coming into field. Do have access to a couple Typhon's Bloods, as well as a Rusty's Claw Technique. Ultimately choosing to let him to draw the Malua. And forcing him now to cast the Malua here with Death Glare. The reason why trying to force it with Death Glare now is to say, like, even if you somehow find a way to unorder your Beowulf, you won't get the added value that Malua brings to the table. So just really trying to not let him refill his hand as much as possible. And Paul not missing out on the stat burn there. Leowolf coming in, it's blocked by the token. Because it's the -2, he's only an 8/8, so they do trade, which means that Leowolf is now bigger and has more counters on it, but it also means that Leowolf has triggered his 1 for the turn. So now would be a really good time to be able to remove the Leowolf. It would give us a lot of value, especially since the Malua is gone. Starting to go try to take the action of doing Rusty's Claw Technique to kill the Leowolves, just to stop me from being burned to death, because that would be 1600 damage right then. Choosing to mill, however, the revealed Little Red Riding Hood off the top, because Little Red the Wolf Girl, don't want to deal with that. So then we have Rusty's Claw Technique coming in there. Paul deciding not to burn me for the 16 that he could have done there, which I think is interesting choice. He does get to draw into the Cthulhu because of the red wine and bread trigger. So like now seeing that there's a Nyarly, a Hestia there, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity, where if he had burned me, he could have just next turn cast the Hestia for game. The Malua is also a very big threat here, because Malua will still deal damage to me if it gets killed, which is an inherent risk. Really just not seeing anything much out of the Typhon's Blood. A lot of Typhon's Blood into other Typhon's Blood, but when the deck is 41 Typhon's Blood, that's pretty standard in a 100 card deck. 101 card deck, I apologize. Do have some advantage in the fact that I can get some life back here with that Dante Enters the Game of Gods by swinging in the token. The token is currently a 10/10 because I have 4 unique stones. And so with Dante Enters the Game of Gods, it can be a 14/14, which means that we will gain 1400 life and put ourselves back in a position of being 3200 life, which is very, very nice. We can also start actually applying pressure to Paul at this point, because the tokens do fly. So in general, they're 10/10 tokens that fly. And so now it's got double flying. Wish it kind of had precision here, because if it had precision, we'd probably swing it at the Malua to gain 14, kill the Malua off board, and then lose 7. So we'd still gain 7 life and get a card off board, leaving him with just that Cthulhu in hand and the Hestia. But ultimately, swinging in for 14 and gaining the 14 back is still very, very nice. Draw for turn being the Hestia. Before recovery, we're going to go ahead and cast a Typhon's Blood. Now, a little bit of a misplay here is that we go to cast Curse of Ragnarok from Graveyard as if it had Quick Cast. That is not how this works. We catch that later. Mount with Iris only gives Darkness Chance in your hands Quick Cast. It does not give them in the grave Quick Cast. So I just don't get as much value off of it as I would in that situation. So a little bit of a misplay on our end, but just keep that in mind for the sake of learning from our mistakes. So now these Cthulhus, everything's essentially with 1 red wine and bread. Everything goes back to being base stats after he's called stone. So these tokens are 4/4s. You know, the Malua is a 7/7. All that kind of good value here. So we go ahead and block the Malua with the Laplacia. We're going to still take the 7 from it. Swing in for 4 takes me down to 21. And swing in for another 5 takes me down to 16. Now he can sacrifice one of those tokens to play the Cthulhu if he wants. Chooses to actually, instead of doing Incarnate to pay the cost, just choose to order the Cthulhu. So now it actually does have a buff, which is being the fact that it is going to be a 7/7 because it gets the additional plus buff. And when he goes, we decide to take that damage. We start to cast Phantasmal Scarlet, and then we're like, you know what? That's fine. We're going to take that damage. It's fine. Ironically enough, if we hit another new unique stone here, we do have lethal, but we need to, or if we had that Luby at the end of his turn, we would have had lethal, but right now we're 100 damage short from the token and the Laplacia, because the Laplacia is currently swinging for 15, the token is 10. So if we hit a 5th unique stone, we actually have game here, which would be quite the turnaround, but unfortunately doesn't seem to be what we're going to hit there. Nothing that has swiftness, no way to burn him. Don't see a sealed one-eyed dragon in the hand as it is right now. Swing in for 10 at the Cthulhu just to get that off the board, one less threat. And then swing in, going to go ahead and mill a card with Laplacia, hitting a unfortunate red, little red, not the card we wanted to see him have off the top there. Thankfully, he does already have the Cthulhu ordered, so I'm a little bit safe for him to draw that card for turn. Still not the best spot, though. Let's draw for turn. We have a blocker to go against the Cthulhu, who is currently 7. Even though he's 7, Lumia is still bigger at 8 because she gets -2 for being a non-darkness resonator, but then she has the bigger 8 here. A little bit of a misplay from my part, which is that he's already called Stone. We see that the top card is Red Wine and Bread, and I go to block with the Lumia, forgetting that Lumia is pumped up. In this moment, if I had instead played Phantasmal Scarlet to kill the token that he was attacking, his attack would fizzle, and we would be in great shape. So because it's already going to die, we know that they're going to trade, we go ahead and say, look, we drew, let's go ahead and play Dante Enters the Game of Gods and get some more life back, because you're going to draw into something, and we have the Phantasmal Scarlet to help deal with the little red that you're very clearly going to have. He gets to draw into another Red Wine and Bread here, which is crazy for him. Does see an explosive withdrawal, which is not super great for me. However, if I can keep his board clear, that's not a big deal. If I can keep everything on board this turn, I should win the game. That is the biggest piece here. Does decide to play another Red Wine and Bread. Both of these cards come down. And we see an ordered Nyarly. The problem here being that now he's going to draw 2 cards off of these 2 Red, White, and Breads. So before her Enter effect goes on the chase, we do have to go ahead and we start to go play Typhon's Blood. That's incorrect. We do grab the Phantasmal Scarlet. It has quick cast. We're going to go ahead and get her killed before he can get anything off of it. He is going to go ahead and do I've damaged your token, so he can at least destroy target damaged J Resonator, so that keeps him alive, and he gets to draw 2 cards here. So he gets Explosive Withdrawal, and the second card, which was another Leowolf. And there's another Explosive Withdrawal off the top. So this is like really a race to the finish here at this point, which is just like, ugh, I gotta try to find some way to kind of close this game out. I also think at this point in time, there's a little bit of a misplay on my side, not drawing 2 cards off of every Typhon's Blood. I'm pretty sure I'm only just been drawing 1, which is a mistake. Once you get to 6 Typhon's Blood in the graveyard, it produces double black and draws you 2 cards. I legitimately think I'm just misplaying there and not drawing 2 cards. So keep that in mind as well if you're going to decide to play Typhon. He does decide to commit to the Leowolf here. That is currently a 2/2, but it does have the buffs from the Red Wine and Breads that have come in for the turn. However, he doesn't have swiftness, so there's nothing else he can do there. And so we are going to lose some stones. I think Paul will ship away the stones that need to be gone. Using Typhon's Blood. Calling a Stone, 4C, which I should have done before I did Typhon's Blood to see if I could maybe get a better draw. You see there is a sealed one-eyed dragon there. So the problem being that he has a blocker. If he hadn't had a blocker, we would have been fine. So ultimately, because we can't apply pressure and we don't want to make a Leowolf bigger, it actually makes sense for us to just go ahead and pass the turn. We can't make red. If we could make red, we'd also be in fine shape here too, because we could just play the sealed one-eyed dragon. But unfortunately, does not work out in our favor. With the sealed one-eyed dragon, if we did have a way to make red, we could swing in with the Lumia, wait until he blocks, and then we would have lethal because we could just burn him for 6, and then reanimate the sealed one-eyed dragon and swing in with Laplacia and the one-eyed dragon both pumped up, and that would be game. So just finding a hard time kind of closing this game out. Draws into the explosive withdrawal, but doesn't have a resonator in hand, so we can't order this turn, which means those explosive withdrawals don't do a lot, which is good for us. Before recovery, though, he is actually just going to go ahead and order the Rogue Spectator. Now, this is pretty greedy, I will say, though, because of the fact that he's got to deal with the fact of now Rogue Spectator is gone, and so if Laplacia gets killed and I have a way to reorder, I can do Typhon's Heart, and at that point in time, the game's probably over, because Nyarlathotep doesn't have the best spot removal, especially since I've been keeping his hand so clear. However, if being able to have this Rogue Spectator here means that explosive withdrawal is suddenly live, which means that he's also going to draw 2 more cards off of the red wine and bread. So the additional versatility for red wine and bread of being able to help him draw cards is really helping Paul stay ahead, or stay in this game, despite the fact that I have so much heavy discard and I've kept him at pretty much 0 hand most of this game. So before recovery, since he's ordered this, we're going to go ahead and pay 6 for Sealed One-Eyed Dragon to go ahead and kill the Rogue Spectator. Paul does decide to use Explosive Withdrawal in response to burn me for another 4. Another 4 here, because it's -2, -2, +2, +2. So he is going to get to draw 2 cards. And the second card there is a Violet. Now, Violet and Mariabella does have swiftness, but it is 2 separate triggers. So before that thing is going to resolve, and because he's already ordered this turn, so Malua is not nearly as a concern, before the card draw of the Violet goes on, she has swiftness and flying and a bunch of red will. She would be able to punch through for a lot of damage. We are going to force him to mill that card out, and he'll draw into whatever the card is off the top, which is unfortunately a Phantasmal Dance of Chaos, which is also bad for me right now, because it's going to make that Leowolf absolutely huge, and put me in just a really bad spot. I think the only card left in my hand at this point is exactly Typhon's Blood. And with no way to be able to recover Laplacia or force him to block or judgments or anything else, he's just going to go ahead and swing in. He is swinging in for 2. He has not called Stone yet. He is just taking the 2 damage in, and I go, sure, that's fine. I'll take 2. The reasoning there being that if I block with the Lumia, it'll give counters to Leowolf, and then he'll just be able to burn me to death, because each will is 200. So he's got 7 stones. That's 1400. The game's over at that point. So we draw for turn. Biggest piece here is he does have access to that Malua. That is the biggest piece here. And double explosive withdrawal. Single explosive withdrawal. Which is a lot of damage here, because Malua is going to be a base 7/7 because of the pump from the order, and explosive withdrawal will also kill me until 7, and then Malua will die into another 7. So unless I can find a way to respond to, in response to whatever he's going to try to do, kill my Laplacia, and then go into a quick cast ordered card to be able to get Heart of Typhon, this is probably going to be game. Really thinking through exactly what I have here. I do have an ordered resonator, but it doesn't have quick cast, unfortunately, and I don't have a way to be able to kill my own Laplacia. So just for the sake of it, we're going to say, let's go ahead and swing in. We take him down to 16. Laplacia would take him down to 1. We're just 100 damage shy. If we had that sealed one-eyed dragon, we could just pitch that and shoot him. But, which is a little unfortunate that we just didn't do that earlier. And find the lethal that way. Or if we had any kind of darkness, that would have been, or any kind of fire, that would have been nice. Taking him down to 100 damage with the Laplacia, seeing if there's any kind of response here. Paul has to pick his moment. He should be at advantage in order to just like he has to execute to be able to try to kill me here. Does decide to pull the trigger, it looks like, and go in for the Malua ordered, which pulling the trigger on that is the game, or would be the game 99% of the time. Like if I had an out here to be able to kill my Laplacia, order out something else, get into a Typhon's blood, then like I would be fine. But unfortunately, not the case. I do not have any way to be able to do that, and so Malua is going to attempt to burn the board for 2 grand, but he is holding priority to burn the board for a grand and do explosive withdrawal, which will hit me for a grand total of 1400 damage, and so that is the game. Paul taking it, and we move on to game 2. So going into game 2 here, going to take the coin as Typhon, hopefully to have a little bit of a better start. You see automatically right out the gate we see a Lucifer, which is a much better starting card here to be able to deal with kind of whatever Paul might be trying to throw down on turn 1. We do see at first turn Hestia. He burns me for 5, so it's down to 96. And this is the kind of exact start we really wanted him to see. So he's going to go in for Hestia. It doesn't have anything to burn. In response to declaration of attack with it, we're going to go ahead and order out Lucifer. Lucifer's going to kill both. He's going to drain that 500 life back. He's going to get to kill the Hestia and itself. Going to get the reveal. So now we're working on Typhon's Bloods. But it's also, when it dies, going to force Paul to draw a card. So he was already down a card because he's already at 5 cards to start. He played 1. It gets killed. He's down to 4 cards. Now he has to discard a card. He's down to 3 cards. And we're at already being able to use Typhon's Blood. Now, we could have used a Typhon's Blood on his turn, which was just a little bit of an error there. In main phase, though, we have another Typhon's Blood. We didn't know if we were going to draw into another one, so we didn't want to use it quite yet because we wanted to hit him with the Dark Mage of Ma'at. Dark Mage of Ma'at getting him to discard another 2 cards here, and then calling Stone. So leaving him with just 1 Stone here. And this time, we're not going to make the same mistake. We're going to play Mechanized Children of Gaia just to put a card on board. We're going to hit a Null Stone, finally seeing our red source there, and then we're going to pass. Sees a Magic Stone, Dance of Chaos after draw, but before recovery. We're going to go ahead and do Typhon's Blood. And this is kind of like the optimum start for this deck. We see Death Glare. We're going to rip that Leowolf out of his hand, leaving his 1 card being Magic Stone, Dance of Chaos. And that's right there is enough to just say for Paul, I do not have a way to come back from that. That immense amount of hand rip that fast in a Resonator heavy deck. And also making it so that every Leowolf then from there on costs 2, puts Paul at a massive disadvantage. And he just says, let's just scoop it up and go to game 3. It doesn't happen very often because you have 100 cards to deal with, but sometimes you just rip your opponent's hands to shreds, even without the use of the combo band cards and no Echidna, and you get to just rip your opponent's hands to shreds. Paul choosing to take the coin again. This time having a little bit of a slower start, but a more long game start, being able to order out Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance. The nice part about this card is the fact that we can tap it to search for another copy of it at any time, which is very, very nice, considering that it essentially just gives us a way to unorder when we need it. It also serves as a little bit of spot removal, which can be pretty helpful. We do see a coin out of Red Riding Hood. To which we're going to go ahead and see a pitch of Sealed One-Eyed Dragon. as well as a tap sack and RFG of the Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance to do an additional -4 to it, so it can just get killed. I was already going to take at least 600 damage from it from getting 3 stones, so at this point in time I paid 200 more and just got it off the field completely, because then it was going to deal even more when it swung in. So it's just better for me at like advantage wise to just like spend my life my way and get it off the board before he gets any value off of it, especially if he happened to play something like a red wine and bread. So remembering that those 2 stones have to come into play tapped, getting his stone for turn being a heat ray. Finally seeing what it looks like to try to shuffle a 101 card deck on camera. It is atrocious. Offering the cut. Do you see he does have 2? That hand is stacked in terms of just like raw potential advantage if he can get a board established. 2 red wine and breads, 2 Dance of Chaoses, and a Malua. If it does end up being not so great of a hand, though, the Malua will be helpful to be able to pitch it and kind of reestablish. We're going to see that Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance reordered, getting us Mechanized Children of Gaia, getting us another stone. Again, just trying to establish some bodies so we can survive to the late game without having our life total just like rushed down that quickly. Not much of a hand here. I imagine we might see Paul just try to commit these red wine and breads to board this turn just to have them advantaged for later. Cthulhu, you know, there's nothing to like play these with. Ultimately, though, does just choose to ship the hand, which is a little bit interesting. We see a Typhon's Blood at the end of the turn, counting how many we're up to there. I think we're at 4. Calling Stone, Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance. Typhon's Blood again. Using the Darkness Will from Typhon's Blood. Now would be an excellent time to be able to force a discard if we had it. Ultimately, though, we're choosing to go ahead and go for that Magic Stone Research Institute to say, like, I don't know why I'm putting it in the graveyard, to try to get access to just having bigger things. Now, these tokens, that machine token is a 4/4, a 6/6, now a 12/12 because of 3 unique stones, because it is a machine. So we can actually go in pretty hard here and start whittling down the resources for Paul, taking him down to 28. Going into Paul's turn, hopefully saw some kind of resonator to be able to stick to. We are going to see those red wine and breads start to come into play here to kind of commit to a future turn. It does make Magic Stone Dance of Chaos feel a little bit weird if he wants to try to clear 1-drops. Leaving himself open to potentially go for a Malua order here. I wouldn't be particularly surprised if we saw Malua ordered, just to get this hand into something a little bit more sustainable, especially considering the fact that he also has the card to be able to make a bunch of tokens, so he can kind of like burn his whole hand. The weirdness, the problem there is, though, if he does try to go for the token generator, Malua will then kill all of his stuff, because they're only getting +6, and so they're 4/4 tokens, and he'll be discarding at least 3 cards, so they'll all be taking 3,000 damage, because it does hit both sides of the field, which is a little bit unfortunate. Paul deciding whether he wants to try to make use of those cards here or just wait. Because if he does wait, he's not going to be able to see a Malua. Or he'd have to commit to Calling Stone already. So we are going to see Malua come down here. Now, Malua is not a May effect. He has to pitch his whole hand here. This is important to note. In response to Malua's effects, we're going to go ahead and see another Typhon's Blood. And then we're going to see what he's going to do. We're also going to tap and sack to get our search off here, just to make sure before he pitches that we do get the search off. The main reason for this is essentially it just turns an order into an order for next turn. He's about to clear my board, so ultimately he's just going to deal 4,000 damage, just going to pitch it all. It's just there's no value for me making a bunch of tokens and then immediately losing them. So he is still going to get to shoot me for a lot of damage, though. Malua being a 15/15, so it takes me down to 7,700 damage. And he does still get to call stone here. He does get to draw 6 cards for Malua here because of 2 of them being like just refilling his hand really nicely. So did turn it into a very, very advantageous, you know, kind of hand cycling there. You see that hand has a lot more work that can be done with it. And just every single J ruler that dies drawing him 3 cards is kind of nuts for this matchup, for sure. Another red wine and bread. We do see a Hestia, gonna burn us down to 72. And we're absolutely not going to let that swing in for as much damage as he did. So thankfully we do have access to some white will, because Rusty's claw technique with the Typhon's blood from earlier is absolutely going to kill that Hestia and say, look, that thing is getting bumped by 1200. We're not going to take 14 off of a 1-drop. Please and thank you. We are going to go ahead and just cast a regular old Laplacia this turn before we Cull Stone, just to be able to see what the top card of both decks are right now. Not making the same mistake of having Laplacia be ordered from last game. We want to be able to maintain our order options as much as possible. Laplacia, a nice little 13-13 right now. I start to go to ship a card to the bottom, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what I'm allowed to do. I do get to look at the top card of your deck, though. And then we are going to use that Typhon's Blood here to start drawing some cards. Now at the point where I'm getting to draw 2 cards at a time and produce 2 black, using one of them for Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance, the third one here, to be able to get something flipped up. And we are going to reveal Dry Wing. We actually get to make use of that card, and so it is going to get us to recover a stone. We just want to be at 2 stones during his turn. It's just kind of pretty important. And then call a stone, and then using the other floating black, let's go ahead and just play a Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. This is mainly just to make use of the will. We know for a fact that he's not going to be searching. He's going to be drawing a lot of cards, but having more bodies on the field just seems like it's a better choice. So Witch of the Fallen Kingdom is just helpful for that reason. Moving into recovery, Paul, sitting on a handful of resonators, starting the game with not so many resonators, now has a handful of them. Does decide to go ahead and order out. We're going to get a lot of stuff this turn. Red Riding Hood, which is going to get us 2 stones into play. Each of those stones giving everything +6/+6, so +12/+12 even before he's called stone for turn. And burning me for 600 damage. Or 200 damage per stone. So we are going to go ahead and both mill the top cards of our deck. Do you see that I give him the card to be able to kill his J ruler and make a bunch of tokens, which is not great when he has 3 red wine and breads. Playing a Typhon's Blood to draw 2 and produce 2 black, just hoping to draw into something to be able to kill that before it's going to start burning my board. Ultimately, though, we miss out on that. 2 stones, burns me for 4 down to 68. The board has been burned for 4. And now everything's getting +12 on his side of the field. Sacks his stone here to go ahead and play the arena expansion to bring those stones back to play. It also draws him a card, which is not great because now he has that thing to be able to kill his own J ruler and make a bunch of tokens. And at this point in time, he has 4 stones. Is about to call in a 5th stone, which is now pumping everything up by 18. And so he gets to make 6 tokens that will all be 22/22s. So if you wanted to find a way to one-shot Typhon, this is it. that Malua refilling the hand really gave some advantage. And this kind of matchup shows that, like, if you have to choose between Phantasmal Ascendant and Red Wine and Bread, Red Wine is honestly kind of better because of the fact that you have that draw power. It keeps you in the game for longer, which Nyarly has kind of learned that she needs to pivot away from just trying to burst out lethal early and get into a more grindy game, and Red Wine and Bread helps you do that. If it hadn't been for the fact that Red Wine and Bread draws him a card, I think in this matchup, in game 1 and in this game 3, we would have seen Paul struggle a lot more. Does play the Hestia to go ahead and burn that Witch of the Fallen Kingdom out the way with a burn 5. Because it's been burned 6 already, it's only getting +6. Swinging in for a massive amount of damage with this little red, at which point in time we have to block. And Paul goes, that's fine, we'll just kill it and make 6 18 or 22 22s, and then draw 3 cards as well. So really just filling up his hand here. And there's not much that could be done at this point. I mean, a double Lumia would certainly help, because I have taken some damage. Like, I could take a few of these hits, flash a Lumia in. He goes to play a Rogue Spectator. We flash in a second Lumia. But because we also had to block, we don't have a way to be able to reorder here. A Lumia into another quick cast 1-drop for Typhon's Heart would have also been effective. Ultimately, though, because one life gain source is not enough, because Paul has access to Rogue Spectator, and so we're in a real bad way here. Gotta hope to try to draw into something. Typhon's Blood offering us no help here. Casting the Lumia to try to bait out the Rogue Spectator. We are trying to remove from game the Hestia by awakening it using the Darkness Will. Rogue Spectator comes in. We don't have another response, unfortunately, so we're just going to try to draw off of the Lumia. And unfortunately, that hand with no life gain is not enough. We are just going to take all of that damage. There's nothing in that hand. We could pay 1,500 life because we're going to die anyway to try to draw into something, but we just don't have the bodies to be able to keep this blocked. We can block one of the tokens with Lumia. We could maybe draw into another quick cast body here to block 2 of the bodies, but ultimately with 4 other ones all swinging for 22, that's 8,800 damage. We just don't have a way to survive it, and so that is going to be the game. You'll see us walk through these steps of the motions here to kind of play it out, but that is the game for Paul. This was a blast to play. It was an honor to be able to play the Discard 101 Typhon list from the Seven Kings team over in Spain. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and seeing Paul doing his thing with turning red things sideways, it was good to be able to get him back and do that. So let us know your thoughts about these decks in the comment sections down below. Deck profiles will be up later this week, and until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.